We are live here with Sports Bros Podcast. I'm your host, Logan Chasney. With me today is Justin Peck. How are you today, Justin?
Doing very well, Logan. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, other than the fact that I got very little sleep last night. But other than that, it looks like we have a jam-packed show today. And as always, we're going to start with our week to week. How was your past week this last week since we last met up for a show?
It's been good. I've been up in Watford City for the last 9, 10 days for training camp. Today is our last day, full day in Watford City before we head back to Bismarck. Been a very busy week of film, laundry, practice, and meetings. As you heard before the show started, every day is kind of like a chaotic meeting, and I just had one for about 15 minutes this morning, trying to get ready for tonight, and chaos has been ensued already. But that is the life that I chose, and it's the life that I'm living. But I wouldn't want to do anything else. I've been loving this every day, day one, and I just can't wait for tonight. Our scrimmage should be a fun one in the city of Watford City, and I'm really looking forward to having the community come out and watch us play.
Well, it sounds like your first week of actual dealing with the team, dealing with everything coming up to the season start, which is a week away. Kind of sounds like your day one at Elma when you first started there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison. And for those of you who do not know what happened and weren't able to listen to our show for Game 1 when I was at Elma, the laundry room caught on fire pregame before our first home game. And I was inside the building when that happened. So while the teams were outside on the field during warm-ups, I was inside dealing with a fire. And that led to me doing laundry in a different facility for 3 months, basically the whole remainder of the season, and trying to get things scattered around and order new supplies and equipment because some stuff was burned in the fire.
So at least you didn't have to deal with that for your first week with Bismarck. But yeah, like I said, the season for you guys is starting in a week. You head to Green Bay. It's 7 days away. Both me and my son are definitely counting down the days that we leave for Green Bay from Michigan to come watch you guys play the Green Bay Blizzards. I actually took that Friday off so we could actually get on the road on time instead of me having to work a 12-hour schedule that week. So it's I'm definitely excited for you. I know my son's excited for you. I know your family's excited for you in this adventure. I can't wait to see how this goes this a week from this Sunday.
Correct. It's
So
not this Sunday, but it's the following Sunday at 3 p.m. Uh, Central Standard Time. Uh, Bismarck Bucks versus the Green Bay Blizzard in indoor football league. So it should be a lot of fun. Like this is a fast-paced type of football where it's a lot of action all the time and not just simple little run plays that only gain about 1 to 2 yards. This is a league where you do not want to blink or go to the bathroom and have a restroom break because you will miss something.
yeah, and I've seen arena football on TV before. It's definitely fast paced. You blink, you're missing something. You don't even have to leave your seat. You'll miss something if you're not paying attention. If I remember right, both me, my son, and a few family members that are going with us, we are like on the 50-yard line of the field, which the 50-yard line is 25-yard line. So
Yeah, it is a 50-yard field with 8-yard end zones. And midfield is the 25-yard line. So we basically play and to give it a good comparison, our entire field is basically played on the same size as a hockey rink,
yeah,
200 by 80 foot.
and yeah, we're pretty much from what I'm looking at, right about the 50-yard line or 25-yard line for the game. Anyways, with that in mind, we have, like I said, a packed schedule for a show today. So if you want to start us off, go ahead, Justin.
Well, we're going to start with the University of Michigan, but it's not going to be the news that everyone's been hearing about lately. There's been some big news coming from the softball team at the University of Michigan, as the Michigan softball coach, Carol Hutchins, has become the all-time winningest coach in NCAA softball history following a 3-0 shutout victory over Northern Kentucky last Friday afternoon. She has accumulated her 1,675th win during that day, and that is also most by any Michigan coach ever in any sport, male or female. She has coached 38 seasons and has led Michigan to 22 Big Ten regular season titles, as well as 9 Big Ten tournament titles. Her legendary 2005 team became the first team east of the Mississippi to win the Women's College World Series. She has never had a losing season since being the head of that program. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. To be able to do that kind of feat when at a college level, that is definitely something to hang your hat on.
And if I was Michigan, I would actually give her a lifetime contract and say, you know what, you can be here as long as you want. We don't care what happens. You've already basically proven yourself to this school, and we support you 100% no matter what.
Right? Heck yeah! Like I said, that's not something everybody's able to accomplish. So yeah, I definitely would be trying to keep her there.
Yeah, when you have the most wins in a program over any sport, male or female sport, you kind of you already have your legacy. It's just now it's like what more to add to it.
Right.
And if I'm a high school softball player, I'm looking at the University of Michigan like, okay, this is where I can go to compete, get a great education, and become a successful person in general. It's like, because when you're in college, yeah, sports matter, but also, yeah, classes matter, but also it's who you become as a human being.
Right.
And in the interviews that I've heard, Carol Hutchins does all three at once, and her players have loved her for it forever.
Yeah.
You will succeed at Michigan in all three areas under that head coach.
Oh heck yeah. She always put her players first before she did herself. Year in and year out. So yeah, she definitely deserves the recognition that she is getting for that. So moving on. What are we going to next there, Justin?
We're going to take a look at Jim Harbaugh's recent new contract deal. You read about that one recently?
I've heard about it. I heard it's quite a big contract deal.
That I've never seen a contract written like this as far as incentive wise, with the exception of probably Lincoln Riley's contract at USC, to where he can get whatever he wants. But Michigan is giving Harbaugh a brand new contract, while renegotiating a contract extension for the next 5 years. He is scheduled to receive at least $41.68 million, and over the next 5 years, if he completes his contract, with $8.05 million coming this year. With an incoming package averaging $8.34 million a year, Harbaugh will again rank among the highest paid coaches in college football.
Jeez.
But within the Big Ten, Penn State's James Franklin and Michigan State's Mel Tucker are still set to earn more money than Harbaugh in the upcoming years. But I don't think that phases Harbaugh one bit because he agreed to this deal and he also said he'll do this job for free. So he's basically signing it to continue with the program, and whatever he gets as a bonus is exactly that. It's a bonus for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would say that is a contract that he was looking for, hence the reason why he was looking to go back to the NFL.
The extension, his contract includes a slew of similar performance bonuses. He will receive $500,000 for winning the Big Ten East, another $1 million for a conference championship, an additional $500,000 for a college football playoff berth, and $1 million for a national title. He also would be making an extra $50,000 if he's named Big Ten Coach of the Year, and an additional $75,000 should he receive National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, it's definitely he got what he was looking for. I don't care who you ask. He was looking at the NFL to get that contract with Michigan.
Harbaugh's new deal doesn't include a prohibitive buyout obligation if he chooses to explore another NFL head coaching job, though. However, the amount he would be required to reimburse starts at $3 million
Jeez.
and decreases by $750,000 each subsequent year of the contract, which runs through the 2026 season.
Right. Which, if he was
So-
smart, he would wait till 2026 to even start looking again if he wanted to look again.
Right. However, if the university fires Harbaugh without cause, it will owe him all of the money remaining on the contract except for a $1 million deferred compensation amount that Harbaugh will receive only he is in the Wolverines head coaching position each on December 31st.
Okay.
He's currently in good standing following the pay cut that he had last year.
Right.
So if he's smart, like you said, he'll do this until 2026 and then start looking for an NFL job if he wants to go back. Because I really don't think that he wants to pay $3 million a year minus $750,000 each year.
Right. Yeah, that's quite a chunk of change. I mean, if he's willing to throw away like $3 million, he could just throw it away my way.
Exactly, right? It's like if he wants to just throw away money, pass it to the fans. They'll gladly take your money.
Yeah. So with that in mind, still with Michigan, men's basketball coach getting suspended for physical confrontation with the Wisconsin head coach.
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me, to be honest, because of what Juwan Howard is as far as being a coach for his players and fighting for his players.
Right.
However, his actions kind of did surprise me, and I personally feel like he was in a like he got a gift.
Right.
Yeah, I get that calling a timeout with a few seconds left to go is already like unsportsmanlike, but don't bring it up. Just remind it, just remember it, and just give it back to him the next time you face him. Don't try and confront the coaches and just don't don't do anything like that. Don't be stupid. Just hold your head up high, let it build up inside of you, and then practice for it. And then the next time it happens and you're on the winning end, go ahead and retaliate. But don't resort to physical violence against another coach.
Especially with the position that you have in a university.
You just got this job a couple years ago, and you took over one of the greatest head coaches that Michigan's had in college basketball in a long time, and you are becoming one of those greats. Just be smart. Don't do stupid shit to cost you your job that you so dearly wanted to get back. It's like you're part of the Fab Five. That was one of the greatest teams, if not the greatest team that Michigan's ever had.
Yep. And not only did he get suspended, he got fined $40,000 for his actions too.
Yeah, it's like you have so much love and pride for this university that you graduated from, and you were so grateful to get the job offer to become the head coach that your actions really have to be better. If you want to stay, you have to learn from this and be more humble.
Yeah. That's even if he gets to keep his contract at the end of the season too.
Correct. And the Big Ten already suspended him for the remainder of the regular season.
Yeah.
But the University of Michigan could do their own investigation and make their own decision at the end of the year. So.
Well, not just that. There's already fans of the university calling for him to be fired for his actions too.
And I'm gonna be truthful here. That night that it happened, my first thought was, he's gone.
Oh, yeah, mine too.
So the fact that he was only suspended for the rest of the regular season and can coach in the Big Ten tournament and then the national tournament if they get to it, again, is a gift. Like, you got off pretty easy.
6 games left in the season, you only got suspended for that. They could have suspended him for the 6 games of the Big Ten tournament and March Madness if they made it that far.
And to make it worse, he could have been suspended for his entire career. Like, you would not be able to coach college basketball anywhere.
Yeah. So he definitely got extremely lucky, but I think if this were to happen again, I don't think he would get that same luck.
No, definitely not. Not even if this happens again, just anything relevant.
Yeah.
Like, he is walking on a tightrope right now.
Yeah.
And probably will be for a few years if he keeps his job.
Yep. He definitely will be. He's on thin ice, and that ice is extremely thin.
I will say, however, he did pick up a hilarious technical foul against Iowa in the couple days prior.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the clip of that one?
I did not.
Iowa had possession, and the ball was tipped into the backcourt where it was heading towards the Michigan bench. Juwan Howard picked up the ball and passed it back to the Iowa player who was on the court. He had a brain fart, he said. As the ball was rolling, just my instincts. I think I'm being helpful. I go and pick up the ball, and I'm thinking, you know what? One of their players knocked it out, and they may have touched it. But I wasn't locked in like I should have been. I picked it up, and it ended up being a technical. I knew when I got it, I was like, oh my God. That's when it clicked, and it wasn't the right thing to do. I told the guys in the locker room and also on the court that we coaches make mistakes too. That's on me.
Right.
What's funny is that it was yes, it was a technical foul. That's kind of what makes it funny, is that a coach picking up a ball during play is a technical foul. But normally, you don't hear about these type of technical fouls.
Yeah.
You only hear Class A technical fouls, and there's two different classes.
Yep.
Normally, when you get 2 technical fouls, you're ejected from the game. Howard got a Class A technical foul in the first half for yelling at an official. That's a given. However, when you're hit with a Class B technical foul, you're not ejected from the game. The rule book states that 1 Class A and 1 Class B technical foul does not warrant an ejection. Only 2 Class A technicals will get a coach or player tossed.
Damn.
Class A technical is defined as an unsportsmanlike conduct, while a Class B is in definition as an infraction of the rules that neither involves contact with an opponent nor causes contact with an opponent and falls below the limit of unsportsmanlike act.
Yeah.
That's a pretty, I honestly want to say it's a pretty big gray area.
Right.
But not really a big gray area because unsportsmanlike conduct can be defined as a lot of different things.
Well, yeah. So, moving from Michigan, going over to Izzo, he gets a 662nd win, tied for the most in the Big Ten. So, as much as I'm not a Michigan State fan, congratulations to Izzo on that achievement. He's probably broken the tie by now. Maybe I'd have to look, but
He is not. Since he had tied Bob Knight's record in his win over Purdue, Tom Izzo's Spartans are on a 3-game losing streak.
Jesus, that might be why I'm not a Spartan fan.
They lost to Michigan. I believe they lost to Iowa a couple nights ago. And then most recently, they lost to Ohio State last night. So he has yet to break Bob Knight's record in the Big Ten, which I'm kind of surprised at, quite honestly, because this was about a week ago that he broke the record. And you're 0-3 the next week.
Yeah, that's not good.
Two of those losses are against big conference rivals.
Yep.
You lost to Michigan, and then you lost to Ohio State.
Yeah.
That doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence going into the Big Ten tournament.
And they play Maryland this Sunday.
And unlike football, Maryland's not an easy team to beat in college basketball.
They're at 500 right now. Maryland is. So I wouldn't put it past them that Michigan State wins, but it's gonna be a close game still.
Yeah, in the world of college basketball, we've seen how March Madness is like.
Yeah.
Anything can happen at any time.
Pretty much.
And I don't even know what the tournament's going to look like, but regardless of what it looks like every year, we're all excited to see what happens.
Well, yeah, it's the big dance. And speaking of like playoffs, college football playoffs is sticking with 4 teams through 2025 instead of expanding to 8. What do you think about that?
I honestly, this is a bad decision. I firmly believe that it's.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. There was speculations of them raising it to 8 after this season, and then they don't. Quite frankly, I think they should have, with only being 4 teams into the playoffs. I honestly think they should make it to where the conference championships are part of the playoffs, and then go from there. That's my personal opinion. Um, I know there's others out there that have their opinions on how it should be done and where the game should be played. One of them being Ohio State's AD, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Um, quite frankly, I think it should be conference championship playoffs. Start the play or conference titles, start the playoffs, and then go from there until you're into the bowl games that would decipher the semifinals and finals. Um, and quite frankly, I think it should be just like the NFL playoffs. The better team gets the home field advantage for up until they get into the bowl games. And no matter what it should be, if it's an indoor field or outdoor field, um, the better team should get that advantage of having the home field advantage throughout the playoffs until bowl time. Unlike, like I said before, Ohio State's AD, he believes that no matter what the football college playoffs go to, the game should be played at an indoor stadium to make it fair. And I honestly think he's talking, and excuse my French, he's talking out of his ass because it sounds like to me Ohio State's the biggest pussy in the Big Ten if they want to play in Indianapolis for a playoff game instead of at their home field.
Yeah, and what this, it's like there's two things that happens with this football playoff. One, I kind of understand the reason for not expanding because they're under contract.
Right.
At the same time, you are allowed to break contract under certain circumstances and with the right payout is what I'll call it.
Right.
With the 12-year contract expiring following the 2025 season, and by choosing to remain at 4 teams until the contract has expired, 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame themselves, since they're too weak and too freaking much of a pussy to join a conference in football, unlike every other sport they have, they have a conference, they have roughly forfeited $450 million in revenue.
Yep.
When you're in the business of money, and when you say that money talks, it sure doesn't sound like it by the way everyone's acting.
Well, yeah. In order to make money, you got to spend money, and apparently they don't like spending money over at the NCAA.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me how everyone is in the business of making money, but yet with $450 million out on the table, just sitting there waiting to be picked up, no one wants to come and grab it.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. Is the president Mark Emmert needs to realize in order for the NCAA to make money, they got to spend that money, and if they're not willing to spend that money, how do they expect to make any kind of profit when it comes to football, basketball, any sport in the NCAA?
Yeah, and I kind of want to believe that if this keeps up, where they just have 4 teams in a playoff, and it continues to be the same, roughly 2 out of the 4 teams, or 3 out of the 4 teams, or whatever the case may be, people are going to get bored of it and they're going to quit watching.
Well, yeah.
And you're going to lose even more money.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to keep seeing the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the godforsaken Ohio States in the playoffs every year, and then have 2 blowout semifinal games and make people believe that all these 2 teams didn't belong there, and then have a national championship game that's actually worth watching, but it's the same 2 teams almost every year or every other year.
Well, yeah, you can almost predict the outcome of the playoffs every year so far.
Yeah, and it's not something you should actually you should be able to predict.
Nope.
It should be just like the NCAA tournament. You can have a guess, but when it comes down to it, there's always upsets, and you're more than likely going to have 2 teams in the national championship that nobody thought would happen. Or maybe you guessed one team, but the other one was like, oh shoot, they're actually doing. I'm actually shocked by these guys. This is going to be a really good final.
Yeah. It should be one of those things where I could walk into my sports book over at the casino and go, all right, I'm going to take it a 50-50 shot and I'm going to throw 100 down on Georgia to win this game. Like, my odds of winning that are literally 50-50. They shouldn't be that even when it comes to it when you have two teams from the same conference in the finals. That makes it even more look like the NCAA is catering to the SEC over any other division in the sport.
Yeah, and with teams wanting to drop out of their current conferences and join the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 and trying to expand, you're losing conferences already. But are you really making those other conferences better by having those teams join? And it's like, I get that college football is changing, but you have to change with it. You can't just stick with the same formula and product that you have.
Well, exactly. It makes for a sport to die real quick in the way of a fan base because you'll have those fans that it don't matter who's in the playoffs, they'll watch it, but then you're gonna have those dedicated fans that are like, I'm kind of sick of the same two teams playing in the finals year in and year out, and they're gonna stop watching.
Yeah, there's a reason um, that the Super Bowl and the Clash at the Coliseum had bigger TV ratings than the national championship game.
Well, yeah.
And I really don't have to say it, but it speaks for itself on what event was there and who played.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, it really. I watched it somewhat, but I I wasn't heartbroken if I didn't see most of the game for that playoff because it was yet again what third year in a row, fourth year in a row that it was Georgia Alabama in the playoffs in the finals. Like, come on, that story's getting old. It's on repeat at this point.
Yeah, you almost. I mean, a lot of times you play them in the regular season, and then you meet each other in the conference championship, and then you meet again in the national title.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to play each other 3 times in a year?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, if you lose, you want to try and redeem yourself, but I mean,
it's always next year for that. You don't need 3 chances.
No, I mean it. That's yeah. I just don't get it.
I don't either. Alright. Moving on. I think that's all for NCAA talk. So we'll go to the MLB spring training postponed till March 5th due to the players union not being able to get a contract that they are satisfied with, so they are still at the talking tables to come up with a contract to hopefully no more games for the regular season get canceled.
Yeah, MLB has already canceled opening day. Yep. And that's just because the Major League Baseball Players Association and the owners haven't become reasonable with each other. The collective bargaining agreement and labor dispute is the first time in 27 years that has canceled deadlines and canceled games.
Yep.
And I mean, I get it. Players reject offers from owners because they are disrespected and the owners don't really care.
Pretty much. Which I totally support the players union on what they are trying to accomplish with this to make it a better working environment for them while they're out in the field.
Yeah. It, from a quote from it doesn't say who the quote was. I believe it's Rob Manfred. It said, "From the beginning of these negotiations, players' objectives have been consistent: to promote competition, provide fair compensation for young players, and to uphold the integrity of our market system. Against the backdrop of growing revenues and record profits, we are seeking nothing more than a fair agreement." Okay, so that was from a player's perspective. Yeah. What Rob Manfred characterized as a defensive lockout is in fact the culmination of decades-long attempt by owners to break our player fraternity. As in the past, this effort will fail. We are united and committed to negotiating a fair deal that will improve the sport for players, fans, and everyone who loves our game. I don't think this is a defensive lockout. What is Rob Manfred characterizing this as a defensive lockout? Just makes people hate him even more, just like every other commissioner that is in the sport.
Right.
You don't have respect and care for the players that are in your game. You care about dollar signs. And this goes back to what you said last topic. Got to spend money to make money.
Yep.
You don't have a league if you don't pay players the way they deserve to be paid. You look at the minor league system. When you play rookie ball, single A ball, low A ball, double A ball, you are on buses almost 95% of your travel.
Yep.
You are put in homes where there's a host family, and all you do is you stay there to sleep and drive to the stadium to play your game and then go home and then hop on a bus to go on a road trip.
Yep.
You stay in hotels. I get that you are living the exact same life as an MLB player, only you're getting paid maybe 5 cents to the dollar, to where MLB players are getting paid that dollar.
Yeah.
You cannot treat these young players the way you are.
Nope.
Otherwise, this is just going to go back to players aren't going to want to play the game and make the league. If they have to spend, and the average player, I honestly believe, spends 8 to 10 years in the minors before making up to the major leagues.
Yeah, I can agree with
players
that.
Players don't spend that much time down there, especially for the pay that they get. Yeah, you get a great signing bonus, but that's basically all the money you're going to be making until you make it to the majors.
Yeah. Yep, it comes down to that almighty dollar.
The players are what make the program, and that is the players and the game of the sport is the product. If you cannot provide a product, there will not be anything to go from. You will not be making any money. You have to provide a product for the fan base. And currently, you are doing everything you possibly can to not give them a product.
Right. And why would they want to show up to a training camp or anything like that when there's nothing for them in the contract to make them want to show up?
Right. And on top of that, when you canceled major league games and nobody reports for spring training, how are you going to sit there and say, okay, well, we'll still have minor league camps, but fans can't interact with the players and players can't interact with the fans?
Yeah.
You are literally tearing apart spring training. That is 50% of the reason why they're there.
Yep.
You go to these spring training ballparks down in Florida and Arizona, all these teams purposely have ballparks built so that when players are on the field, fans are right up against the fences and they interact with each other. There's a reason that spring training is fun and interactive. And it's because the players want to be there and interact with their fans and get to know their fans while their fans get to know their players.
Yep.
They want to know who's coming up in the franchise. They want to know those names to look out for. Who's going to be famous? Whose autograph can I get now that 15, 20 years down the road they could be in the potential for a Hall of Famer or a Triple Crown or a Pitcher of the Year award or just MVP of World Series? Like, who's going to be that guy? They want to know who that could be and get as many autographs as they can so that they can say, oh, yeah, we were there when he was at spring training down in the rookie ball league when he first got drafted, and now I have a ball signed by him and when he first got here, and now it's going to be worth so much money, but I'm not going to sell it, and it's just going to be a collectible, and I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yep.
I'd really love to know why they're continuing minor league ball but suspending major league ball, and the minor league players aren't honestly, I'm kind of curious to know if the minor league players would get in on this and go on strike or boycott their season until the big boys get what they deserve.
Well, yeah, and that will show how much the minor league teams back their um, big boys by doing that too. I mean, if they don't do that, I could see that being a low blow to the team that they're associated with too.
Right, because the big boys are fighting for them.
Yep.
However, I do also understand that, hey, let the big boys handle it and we'll get what we deserve in the end. So let's just keep playing our game and let the lawyers and big rigs take care of it.
See, yeah, I can't see that though, especially since it is a players' union that is fighting for them. They are part of that. They are part of that union, and they need to support and back their union brothers.
Right. And it'd actually be it'd be interesting to if there was a poll taken by all the players in every level of baseball to know how they feel about this and what they would do to help or support or whatever the case may be. Like I genuinely think that there should be a survey taken and they should be publicly announced. And then when the owners read how their players feel, maybe there could be some more adjustments to be like, hey, these guys are actually being serious about like resigning from our league, and if we don't do this, so we better step it up a notch
Well,
or
exactly.
whatever the case may be. Like
Something
you
needs to
guys,
be done to make it fair on both sides of this contract. And with the MLB and the owners not willing to go to negotiate with the players, they're just hurting themselves in the long run because players already got, for the most part, enough money to last them for a while. Owners, yeah, they have enough money to last them for a while, but they still have bills they need to pay. And in order to pay those bills, they need to fill seats in those stadiums. And in order to fill seats in those stadiums, they need games. So the players' union has them pretty much in their hands because the owners need to fill those seats in order to pay bills. With those seats sitting empty even longer, it's going to come down to how are we paying our bills? How are we going to get this money to pay these bills? Or are we just going to flop and the team dismembers?
yeah, and right now it's going to come down to exactly what happened during the 2020 season is no seats are being filled, but you can buy like statues or cardboard cutouts for say. Like the longer you leave seats empty, the more money you're going to lose. And you all should be looking at the 2020 season of how much money each organization lost
Well, and
because you
it's not even going to come down to that because this season, at least you were allowed to show up to the stadium. 2020 is when COVID-19 hit us. So I could see why you could buy cardboard cutouts and they sit in the stands. That's not going to happen this season. People are going to want to actually show up now that they're allowed to show up. And if they can't come to an agreement so the season can start, people aren't going to be buying cardboard cutouts because they're going to spend their money someplace else.
Yeah, and you're going to be losing a lot of sales at concessions, even though those prices are already ridiculous. But people still pay them because they're at the ball game and they want to enjoy their game.
Yep.
You're losing. You're already, because you canceled the first series or two series of opening day. I want to say that each team and organization is going to lose out on, I want to say, about $5 to $10 million each in each series, because there's no tickets being sold, there's no food or beverages being bought, and there's no game being played.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I had to look up, and the average team makes about $4 million per game.
So you're about to, if you're in a 3-game series, you'll lose about $12 million.
Correct. The average ticket revenue is right around $930,000, give or take. Average food and merchandise revenue per game is $3.1 million.
I don't know about Major League Baseball, but that's a hell of a lot of money to be given up, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and that's per game. That's not like average per season. That's average per game.
Better figure it out.
Yeah.
If you want to keep that money, you better figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm sure a portion of that goes to paying, like fees to the MLB to even be part of the league. So not only is the teams losing money, it's gonna come down to the MLB is going to start losing money.
Yeah. So MLB, how long is it gonna take?
Yeah, who knows at this point? I mean, hopefully it comes to an end soon and nothing more becomes of it. But at the same time, they are well deserving of what they're asking for what they have to endure in their season, because their season's not like any other sports season out there. So
Yeah. You're playing games all summer long, almost every single day. There's going to be a game regardless of what team you root for. There's always going to be a game on from spring training up until Major League Baseball playoffs.
yeah. Let's see here. All right. What do we got next, Justin?
We'll go to some hockey news. We'll start with the news that's been trending on Twitter and all that about the war between Russia and Ukraine. But the reason that this has to deal with hockey is because the company CCM has stopped using Russian players in their global marketing campaign. So the Russian players that use CCM equipment, like Washington Capitals star Alex Ovechkin, Pittsburgh forward Evgeny Malkin, Capitals defenseman Dmitry Orlov, will have to find other equipment to start using to start playing their games the way they want to play.
Yeah.
Russia has pissed off so many people that they have now said, you know what? We're just going to cut you off, and your guys are going to have to suffer and find something else.
Which sucks for them because they did nothing wrong, but at the same time, the country they came from has done a lot wrong.
Yeah. When athletes asked about what was going on, they specifically just said, he's my president. I'm not in politics. I'm just an athlete.
Right.
Obviously, it's one of them had said on a Instagram post, be a part of this team. To me, it's a privilege. It's like the feeling of when you put on a jersey of the Russian team, knowing that the whole country is rooting for you. When you have your NHL players supporting your country the way that they do, because that's where they originated from and that's where they learned to play the game, they fell in love with it, and they got drafted from, and you have your president basically just shitting all over your career, I wouldn't be too happy with him either.
Right.
And I've seen some posts and I've read some interviews and watched some videos. Everybody wants this to stop simply because of the fact that Russia is the one that's being the problem.
Yep.
Everybody wants Putin out and for him to figure it out. And I've yet to hear the reason why it even started to begin with. Now, granted, there's all these different things that happen to accumulate this, but what made him snap and want to ruin the careers of all these Russian athletes? Because the international, the the minor league system that canceled the Junior Federation hockey, they are now They are now rejecting Russia's involvement in the tournament. Both Russian teams are now excluded from this tournament that is going to be restarted here soon. The World Juniors Association of Hockey has also said that Russia and the Russian teams won't be allowed to continue this in this tournament for years to come until this has been resolved. So if the World Juniors and the World Hockey Federation are canceling that already, what makes you think the Olympics are going to be next, or the just regular World Tournament games, the World Cup for soccer?
Well, the World Cup for soccer, they already told Russia they're done.
Okay, so there's that. You have young athletes that want to be drafted, and a lot of these teams are saying no simply because of what's been going on, and that's not fair to those guys. So, but I totally understand and why some of the leagues and teams are doing what they're doing simply because of what's happening.
Yep.
But I feel bad for the players that this is happening to, because it's not their fault.
Well, I agree. But at the same time, something has to be done to put a hold on Putin, but that's for a different story and that's for a different program.
Yeah, and this is I want to say that this is a tactic to try and get under Putin's skin to try and end this all. And like you said, it's for a different place and different program, but I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, this is what's going to keep happening if you keep doing what you're doing. But let's move on.
Yep.
An NHL record has been broken by a defenseman for continuous games played. So, unlike our previous episode for games played, this one was a defenseman and not a forward. Zdeno Chara of the New York Islanders, formerly a Boston Bruin, has broken Chris Chelios' record of most NHL games played by a defenseman. Now, this wasn't consecutive games. This has just been games played.
Right.
So, last Thursday, the 24-year NHL veteran appeared in his 1,652nd career game in a shootout loss to the San Jose Sharks. The 45-year-old is now tied for 7th most games played ever at a position in the NHL. He averages 18 minutes and 30 seconds worth of ice time a night.
Jeez.
You're asking a 45-year-old defenseman to play almost a full period a game every night.
Yeah.
That's impressive because that tells you how big of a player he is, how physically in shape he is, and how much he still loves the game and wants to play the game.
Right.
He said in a quote, "I'm very grateful and I've been very lucky to have had many great teammates, coaches, trainers, and friends. But none of that is more important than the support of my wife and children. I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for them allowing me to still play the game and do what I do to help my teammates every night." Zdeno Chara has been a class act ever since he began in the league, and that is why every team wants to have him. He is a captain, a leader on and off the ice, and definitely one to learn from.
Yeah. He definitely is a good player to be able to play that many minutes in a game.
Speaking of defensemen, the New York Devils draft pick, Luke Hughes, who currently plays for the University of Michigan, has had a standout season and has broken a record at the University of Michigan.
Really? And that would be...
He has scored his 13th goal of the season last week, which leads all NCAA defensemen. And he has... Where did it go? It just lost it. I had it right in the article, and then it just lost. Okay. So, since last week, he has scored 2 more goals in a 5-3 to win over Ohio State last Friday to break the all-time Wolverines record by most goals scored by a freshman defenseman. So 15 goals already as a freshman defenseman has broken a 45-year-old record at Michigan. You're doing that as a freshman, and you're already drafted by the New Jersey Devils. Boy, I can't wait for this kid to come into the league.
Right.
This kid's already impressed me. And he's still got 3 years to go at Michigan before he's even graduated, if he stays at Michigan for that long a time.
Jesus.
No thanks. Did you hear me? Is there anything else on the docket today?
Not that I know of. I think that is it for us today. So, with that being said, as always, thanks for joining us today. And make sure to have a break and have a sport. Have a wonderful day.